Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Rakakodash, and double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to those for elect, hearing this word in truth and in sincerity. Okay? I'm the brother Awalam. I just want to do a quick lesson concerning the news of, this guy, Charlie Kirk. They don't really know much of the guy, but, saw a video of him pretty much getting assassinated, in real time, man. Because they had his death on the web, and you could just see a 1 minute you here, the next second you out of there, man. Which is ultimately, another reason to fear Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. But nonetheless, my point is that his death, the way I see it, through the spirit, his death was an omen to the downfall of Edom. In so many ways, but in a general way, him being taken down like that, you can take that. I'm not saying it's by, the way he died, all right, is the way Esau's gonna go out, nothing like that. What I'm saying is that his death was an omen to Esau, Edom being taken out of power, altogether, because when you look at his killer, it's most likely an Edomite that took him out, and if it's an Edomite that took him out, more than likely, which it is, then that means that they're divided. And what did Yahushua say? Yahushua said, a kingdom divided cannot stand. Alright, so if Esau, Edom is warring against himself, then, you might as well, close the book. It's over for them. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 19 and verse 2. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother. You see, the modern day Egyptian, alright, is Esau, the so-called white man. They're the modern day oppressors. So the Lord said he's going to set the Egyptian against the Egyptians. And that guy being pretty much put down, in front of everybody like that, that was an omen to, the downfall of Esau, because, when you got, Edomites warring against each other via the Democrats and Republicans, there's no way their kingdom is going to stand. Hey, what's that saying? United we stand, divided we fall. Well, you're divided and you're going to fall, man. And what someone else was going to say. But nonetheless, let me keep going. It says, and every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. You got the Russians against the Ukrainians. You got, Babylonians against the Russians. So on and so forth, man. Hey, they're all against each other, and their kingdom is not going to stand. And the way we see it, what we see it happening right now, is pretty much the Edomites, suffer from the curses written in the book of Deuteronomy 28. Because we're still under the curses, but Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is slowly, turning the tables, on these devils, man. We're still in their blessing, but we're at the end of their blessing. So now you're going to see things like, Edomites crying because they're suffering poverty. And this is only the beginning, for them, man. Because the worst is yet to come. Save those tears for when we get in the kingdom, because the slavery you're about to go through, the hardcore, rigorous bondage that you're about to go through in the kingdom of heaven, that's going to be something to cry about, man. But right now, Esau, Edom, they're starting to witness the curses. They have an evil eye towards each other, and another thing, too, is that the dude that got shot dead, Charlie Kirk, as pertaining to the curses, the curse that we go through, Jake go through, is that how the children will grow up without their father. Well, guess what? That same curse is applying to this guy. You know, because now his children gotta grow up without him. You see what I'm saying? His wife, you know, is now a widow. You know, unless she get, you know, married again. But his wife is now a widow. So these are all the curses that we went through, man. So as you can see, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is starting to put Edom through these curses. All right, and this is an omen to his downfall. You know, so this is worth something to rejoice of. All right, the scripture says in Sirach, I want to see the 25th chapter. All right, that it's a joy for a man to see the fall of his enemies, man. Oh, yeah, people gonna hear about his news of him passing. People gonna see the video and they're gonna be like, oh man, you know, that's sad. But you gotta remember, these people don't have the spirit. All right, they don't have the understanding of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai to know that, you know, things like this, you know, has been happening. You know, assassinations have been happening. All right, and more of it is to come. You know, because as you got these people out here that are uncouth, these people are losing their minds. You know, a lot of these people out here, you know, hey, matter of fact, that's in the book of 2 Ezra 15. You know, and people are fed up, man. So now, this is why Edom is going to send the military. He's going to send the National Guard because as people get more disturbed, people get more, lose their minds more, they're going to start taking matters into their own hand. Right? Let's go to that in the book of 2 Ezra, the 15th chapter. 2 Ezra 15, in verse 14, and it says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And the modern day sword, all right, is the gun. All right, back in the day, back in the ancient world, the sword was used, you know, because the overall concept of a sword is to kill. It's a weapon. All right. So the modern day sword or modern day weapon that's heavily used in our times, all right, is the gun. All right, which this guy was murdered by, man. Okay. And as you can see, you have one people against another. All right. Yeah, they call themselves Americans. All right, but you got Democrats, Republicans. You got people that believe in other shit. All right, so they're all against each other, man. You know. Hey, united we stand, divided we fall. All right, we're witnessing their fall. You know, and seeing Babylon fall, hey, that's not something to be like, oh man, you know, this, that, and the other. You know, hey, we're rejoicing at this shit, man. All right, because I'd be lying to you if I said I like waking up every day having to go slave for these devils, man. You know, having to do the same shit over and over again to get by. This is hell. All right. People keep talking, Christians keep talking about hell this, hell that. All right, you're going to go to hell when you die. Man, we are in hell. You know? This ain't living right here, man. You know, but Jake, you know, they got themselves some goodies or whatever here in Babylon, and they don't want to let it go. And I always think about it like this. You know, if there was like a portal, right? Hypothetically speaking, right? If there was like a portal, you know, and there was a device that led you to the through the portal. Like, you know how in those movies it shows like you usually got like a device that opens a portal up to another dimension or up to another world. If the Lord had a portal open, all right, and it may be a stone that opened a portal, you know, and you were like right 1 millisecond from getting the kingdom, and all you had to do was walk through it, you know. It always crossed my mind that a nigga would destroy that stone. He'd destroy, you know, the way to get to the portal because, you know, he may have a big house or he may have a nice job or he may have a nice car, you know, and he's just looking back at it like, I don't want to lose this. So he destroys everything that leads through the portal of the kingdom of heaven, you know. That's the way Jake is holding us back from the kingdom, man, you know. So, niggas, they Jake that got high-paying jobs and, that's not really suffering from, the economic, woes right now. They're going to suffer from when that inflation hit, that hyperinflation hit. Now, when the hyperinflation hit, what more can we really do? Like those of us that, that's barely getting by. We're ultimately going to have to depend on Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua to get by, man. That's Isaiah the 10th chapter and the 20th verse. And this shall come to pass that the remnant shall not stay upon him that smote them. Okay? It says, verse 16, and it says, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their action shall stand in their power. You see? They shall not regard kings nor princes. And this guy right here, Charlie Kirk, he would be regarded as one of the princes, man. The princes of Edom. Alright, because he was up there concerning, his sister. And the way he got shot down like that, that shows you that they did not regard, his place in society. They did not regard him. So, hey, he was just another person in their sight. Because, there are charges, for people that assassinate, high-level officials. You wouldn't want to, let's say a criminal, right? Let's say he killed somebody, a homeless person, or somebody in your hood. Yeah, he's going to get charged for murder. All right, he's going to go to jail. All right, that's about it. Probably get, 60 years in jail, but that's it, But somebody that's up there, a high official, all right, you murdered him, man, you getting a death penalty. You see? So the person that pulled the trigger, he did not regard that. All right, he did not regard going to jail and possibly getting tortured or, getting a death penalty. He was just fed up. And that's the sentiment with people here in Babylon the Great. They're getting fed up, man. Now obviously we're not gonna do anything like that. We're leaving everything in the hands of the Lord. But you're gonna have people out there, even niggas. You're gonna have Jake out there, committing certain crimes. And of course, Esau, Edom is always gonna find a way to turn it back onto, us. Those of us that believe in the Lord. All right. But there's no blame that you can put on, those that serve the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. All right, the scripture says in the book of Romans, the 8th chapter, who shall lay any charge to the Lord's elect, man? So Lord willing, we be at that number. You can't lay no charge to us because we didn't pull no trigger. All right, we didn't do nothing wrong. But Esau, Edom, he's on a stretch anyway. Okay. But the sedition among men, we're really in those times, man. All right. As you got the MAGAs, all right, they're pretty much fed up with Trump, because he promised them false hope. Everything that he said that he was gonna do, all right, he's not doing. All right. The reason they went and voted for this guy is because he made them promises. Well, they were all empty promises. Now they're fed up. So eventually these guys are going to take matters into their own hand. All right, and the so-called white man eventually is going to have to send the National Guard, send the military. All right, because you got, the average citizens out here, all right, average white men out here, with guns, man. With fucking military-grade weapons. See, so this is not our fight. Although we may get caught in the crossfire. All right, this is a fight between Esau, Edom, and themselves. All right, but once again, niggas are going to be in the midst of it. You're going to have Jake, that want to play hero. All right, and pretty much get in the midst of Esau's judgment, man. And when they be put down, it's going to be their judgment. All right. So it says, verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. All right, because martial law will be implemented. All right, martial law will be implemented to where you cannot go where you want to go. Like right now, people are able to travel, they're able to drive to different cities, go to different states willingly. But when martial law is pretty much are implemented, you know, you're gonna need your ID, you're gonna need records, you're gonna need ultimately you're gonna need that chip. All right, but you're not gonna be able to roam freely like you once had to. See, and this is why people are gonna be like, nah, you know, because this is not the America that they knew, the America that they remember. They're taking away our freedom. All right, especially Esau, he's gonna be like that. Esau gonna be like, they taking away our America from us, you know. Esau gonna lose his shit. Yeah. So all in all, you know, just want to do a lesson concerning, you know, an omen to Edom's downfall. All right, this guy Charlie Kirk, you know. Matter of fact, let me end it off with this scripture, Lord willing. That's the scripture I was thinking about earlier, but it kept on slipping my mind as I was speaking. But Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 7. Okay? Deuteronomy 30 and verse 7. I'm in 7. Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 7, and it says, "And the Lord thy power will put all these curses upon thine enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee." You see? So the Lord is putting the curses on the Edomites, man. You know? And once again, yeah, we're under the curses, all right, but, you know, it's a process to how the Lord is doing it. You know? And when you see the curses being lifted off of us, you know, ultimately it's starting with the elect, because 2/3, you know, of our people, they're gonna continue to, you know, dwell in their wickedness. They're gonna continue, all right, to do bullshit. They're gonna get judged for it, all right. But as the curses, as the tides turn, you're seeing the curses be put on, all right, the so-called white people, and of course the other nations. You know, they're getting their judgment. We really harp on Esau more than the other nations because, all right, they're the head of the nations right now. All right, they're the ones in power. You see? So, you know, that's pretty much the point. Once again, this has been, all right, an omen to Edom's downfall. This guy Charlie Kirk getting laid down in front of everybody like that. You know, you better recognize, man. All right, so Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakodash, and double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to those for elect, hearing this word in truth and in sincerity. Until next time, I say shalom.